Okay, so this is a Beatles podcast by name, primarily Paul McCartney, who I worked for in '93. But as the description says, and other follies. So one of my other follies was working for Sting 2 years before I ever worked for Paul McCartney. It was 1991, and he was doing a 40th birthday celebration thing. I guess he was born in 1951. And so my job was to interview like all the people that were close to him on the tour to give birthday wishes. I'm not sure what they were going to do with them, but I interviewed Sting as well to sort of give some kind of a response or whatever, or think about what it's like to be 40. So one of the things was, so as a result of that, I started touring with Sting. There was I wasn't the director, I was a cameraman, shooter. And the director, Larry, I won't say his last name, but you can look it up if you want, he started hiring me to tour with Sting and him and to shoot behind the scenes stuff, similar to what I did with Paul 2 years later. And one of them was, we're going to Vietnam, Larry says to me. And I was like, what? Yeah, Vietnam. You have a passport? I said, yeah. So he said, okay. We're going to do a thing there. I don't know if you've ever been to Ho Chi Minh City, but, it was a nice hotel. But right there was this like 6-7 lane road, maybe 12 lanes. It was a big fucking thing. And all the Vietnamese folks, they're on scooters, and they're wearing masks because it's so polluted. And there's no traffic lights or anything like that. And they're just speeding and speeding. And I was like, hey, how the H am I supposed to cross the street there? There's no stop signs and no one ever stops. He says, don't run. Just walk through the traffic very slowly and let them avoid you. I was like, okay. It was a little scary, but it actually worked. So anyway, Sting was doing a show. He was like the second Western artist to do a show in Vietnam. So anyway, this is for TV. It's in a fairly small venue because he wasn't really that known. In fact, when I was showing up to the venue, there were so few Westerners there that the people knew, the Vietnamese people knew that this important person, this important Western rock star was going to be there that night performing. I was showing up with some equipment, for the shooting, and they would stop me. These little Vietnamese girls outside of the venues, I'm trying to get in. They go, Stinga? You Stinga? I would just go, yeah, I am. And try to keep moving on. As far as the director, the crew, Sting himself, this was going to be on live Vietnamese television, but no one took any stock in it, They thought it's not, no one's going to see it, So whatever. And so the director, Larry, he was like, Michael, you're going to direct this for live television. I was like, what? I had never directed live television before. And I said, why? He says, because I don't give a fuck. But let's clear it with Sting. And he took me over to Sting. And I said, Sting, Michael's going to direct tonight's show for live TV. And Sting goes, well, I suppose it doesn't really matter, does it? So I got stuck with it. Totally green. I had no experience in that at all. So I'm in a control room before the show starts, and there's a whole bunch of people there, technical Vietnamese people, and there's the 5 monitors, 5 camera people who are Vietnamese roaming about there, and then the show starts, and so I go, what you do is you bark out the orders, and someone else can instruct the camera people. So I go, hey, tell camera 1 to go to a close-up of Sting's bass. And the guy goes, huh? He didn't speak English. So, I'm trying to communicate with these people. So the first, minute and a half was just on a shot of Sting, medium shot of Sting. Meanwhile, other things are happening that you want to see, like guitars and stuff. And so I was reduced to finally figuring it out with the guy with sign language who was in the booth with me. And I said, I would point to a monitor and I would go, very emphatically point, like triple. And so I did the whole thing, standing up for 2 hours, running around, jumping around, and pointing at different monitors, and that's how it was done. Then we went to Turkey with Sting, and one of the great things that I shot, I think, is Sting performing yoga, which is already on YouTube. Anyway, as you can see here, for any of you filmmakers out there, I was shooting on 16 millimeter. We were indoors, so I didn't have an 85B filter on the camera. This might be too technical for some people, but that's what balances the light for daylight. But I was shooting without that, so that means it's interior. So that means that daylight becomes very blue. So as you can see, Sting's doing the yoga. Every time he bends over, stretches there, the curtain behind him blows open, and this beautiful, faintly blue light comes in and just showers Sting in this evanescence there that you can see here. And that's all because I made a technical mistake.